with your hosts, Unique
and Janice. Where today's topic, we're discussing your hunger for success.
So, Janice, what does that term hunger for success mean to you?
Well, when I think about it, you know that hunger is the normal sensation or feeling that you have when you want to eat because your body is missing something, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're low on energy.
Right.
And your body signals your brain, or your brain signals your body that your stomach is empty. And this makes your stomach growl and you get those hunger pains.
Mm-hmm.
So, in turn, when we think about hunger, it expresses itself differently in people. I know I get angry. I'm that angry person. And Brandon, he gets really upset and irritable. And for instance, like you, when you don't have something in your system, you're like, oh my goodness, I have a headache, right? So, hunger is hunger, but no matter how it manifests in people, all these things are signs that whatever your current situation is uncomfortable. And in order to get back to some type of normalcy, you have to feed it.
So basically you're saying with the examples that you used just now, the real life examples, that in order to be successful, you basically have to feed it.
Right. Me and Brandon was watching one of these news shows. They come up with something every 5 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
On one of the networks. I'm not going to say.
Right.
And it was a singing show. And in this singing show, there were 4 contestants. And they already had like a guaranteed seat. And they were good to go. And the goal ultimately was for them to maintain that seat.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people who came out that wanted to knock them out of their seat or out of the competition. But what they had to do, they had to perform first.
Mm-hmm.
And once they got the thumbs up from all the judges, all the lights lit up green or blue or something like that, then they earned the opportunity to choose which one of those 4 that was in those guaranteed seats
mm-hmm.
that they would compete against.
Okay.
And, during that duration, if they got to that point, when they called somebody out, the audience would choose who would go home. But during that process, the person that was challenged, one of the judges was always asking, are you ready to eat? And then the audience would get into a chant of eat, 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 eat. And at first, I thought that was really odd. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? Because I didn't get it at first. But then it occurred to me that judge was asking that person, were they willing to put everything out there,
mm-hmm.
whether or not they were willing to put everything on the line to do their best performance, and did they have what it took to make it to the finish line? The question really was, were they hungry enough to endure and to maintain, to have that chance to change their current situation?
That's interesting. So with respect to entrepreneurship, are you saying that being hungry is the key?
I think that's one of the biggest things because, when it comes down to entrepreneurship, it's usually brought on by something when something in your life is making you uncomfortable. You need to find out what that irritation is that's causing the pain. What's signaling you that a change is needed.
I think it's interesting that you brought up about signals that prompt you that a change is needed. I think, for example, if you're working on an everyday job, say an 8 to 5 or so, and things seem to be getting challenging for you, or there seems to be some very uncomfortable moments, and also personally, you feel like you're getting tired of things being the status quo, those can be some triggers that can make signals to you that a change is needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with entrepreneurship, that when you have some dreams that tend to resurface, and they are resurfacing in a strong manner, whether it's writing a book or starting a business, whether that's consulting or whatever that business may be, that's part of the passion that's been ignited in you. in what you're, if I'm being clear on what you're talking about, and just kind of, talking about that entrepreneurship and that hunger. I think when those things resurface and those ideas and those visions tend to be strong to you, and then you have that urge and that desire to develop them and start developing strategies on how to move forth in those entrepreneurship endeavors, I'll say, then I think that's part of that hunger for success. And I think some of those triggers you can say is that when you have those things that are just seem like they're just so embedded in your being, in your soul, and you can't stop thinking about them, and it's like they just seem to consume you, in a positive manner.
Right.
That's part of that, what we're talking about here on the show this evening about having that hunger for success.
Right. And I know that one of the things that we talk about like off the air, just in our everyday lives, is when, as we're pursuing our dreams, it's like we don't have enough time in the day. Although we always have that same 24 hours, it's just how we use it. And it's, those early mornings and those late nights, and we're juggling family and friends and everything else. And, we as women, we're just the ultimate jugglers of everything all life. You have the children, the household, the husband, the boyfriends, and everything. And the crazy thing about it is that we are just so subliminally taught that those are our only roles that we are supposed to have. And sometimes we can get stuck in that crazy mindset that this is what I'm here to do, and that's all I'm here to do. And, we end up being unfulfilled in our lives, personally and spiritually, and we're financially bankrupt in certain areas. And, we can begin to resent the things and those people that are so important to us. And it's important that everyone encourages everyone else, especially women, because, if we feel successful, then our families succeed.
Yeah, and it's, I think an interesting fact was, I was looking up statistics, as I like to do, and that information. And I found an article from USA Today, and it was dated December 13th, 2017. And it basically stated, and I won't get into the numerical portion of it, but it talked about that although women start businesses in record numbers, that they're not growing as quickly as their male counterparts or male entrepreneurs, which I thought was very interesting. And so it's like, it tends to bring two questions to mind. And I think, one, what's holding them back? And two, what could help them grow? And in my opinion, I think one thing, speaking as a woman, I know I can't speak for every woman, but I think one of our challenges is that always trying to be a perfectionist. And I think that can sometimes hinder, us going out and just pressing through to go ahead and start whatever the entrepreneurial journey is, because we want things to be perfect. And honestly, there's no perfect moment whatsoever in this life. So, to me, it's like, just, make the plan, whatever it is that you decide you want to do. Like I said, write the book. And I know I always go back to that because that's one of the things that I do as an author. But it's like, just go ahead and sit down and do it. And it's like, if you're trying to start a brick and mortar business, go ahead and do your business plan, And it's like, yeah, and you want to anticipate things, but you can't anticipate everything. Right. So it's like, just, for me, just do it. And I think that is probably one of the things for those two questions that we just talked about, that having that, always want things to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect.
Right. And, with that also, it's the fact that we need to uplift each other, just as women itself, in every mentality, or in every, I guess, demographic, not mentality. There's sometimes the crab in the bucket, type of mentality,
right?
Where we don't want to see our sisters, elevated because we think that they're getting, something that we deserve, and it's supposed to be our time and not theirs. But behind closed doors, you don't know the work and the sacrifice that was put in for them to get those particular accolades right then and there. So instead of hating, it's a matter of linking arms with your sister, picking their brain, trying to figure out, what information that you can tap into to see how you can succeed and get to that level. Because everybody, every woman, every man, every girl, every boy, we have that something. And it's just, how do you tap into that something?
And there's nothing wrong with celebrating each other in the process. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hello, and welcome back to the second half of the Hiram Connection with your hosts, Unique
and Janice. Now, Unique, when we left off, we were discussing being hungry for success as an entrepreneur. So with that being said, what type of advice can you give others to help them when taking steps towards making or achieving their goals?
Okay, well, my first piece of advice would be to stay focused and motivated. And what I mean by that is keep your goals and your dreams, whatever those are, keep them posted in front of you. And I have talked in previous episodes about having that vision board or writing down things in a journal or what have you. If you keep those things in front of you, I think that's one of those tools you can use just to stay focused on what your end goal is and to stay motivated as you go through the process. Because as we know, as entrepreneurs ourselves, that the process is not necessarily always an easy one, but you always keep things, keep those tools that help to keep you motivated and stay focused. My second thing would be just keep moving forward in action.
Just keep swimming.
Right. And it's like, don't talk about what you want to do, or just plan, and there's no action. So you have to basically just move forward. You can set up that, whatever that initial thing is, like I said, with writing down that business plan or what have you, just do it and move forward and put actions to what your overall end goal is going to be. And that helps you move forward, helps you to proceed in the process.
Gotcha.
And I think the last thing I would say, which I've mentioned previously as well, because I think it's important that you keep these things in your mind, block out the naysayers.
Amen.
Let me say that again. Block out the naysayers. And one of the things that you can do, don't share everything about what you're doing. If anything at all, just keep it to yourself or whatever that close-knit circle is. Like you and I, it's you and I and Brandon. So, and Malcolm, so it's us. So it's like whatever you're doing, just keep that close. You don't have to share everything that you're doing with everybody, especially when you are in those planning and kickoff stages of your business, whatever that may be. And you surround yourself with like-minded folks. You're an entrepreneur, so you surround yourself with entrepreneurs who have the same mindset. Let me be clear on that. So, people that are on the journey with you and, they are moving forward like you are, they have those action steps in place. Those are the people that you want to group up with, talk to, get advice from, and even the entrepreneurs that have already gotten to where you want to be. So I think when you surround yourself in that manner, those steps that I shared, or those pieces of advice that I shared, I think are helpful on that entrepreneurship journey and helps with that hunger for success on the entrepreneurial journey.
Those are some great nuggets of advice. And, some of the wisdom that I've learned throughout the years is that one, you have to never lose your hunger.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that, not having that drive for hunger, it's an amazing asset. It's what drives you and it what pushes you forward and what fuels you.
Right.
There's going to be times when you're unmotivated, that you're tired, you're weary, you're frustrated. But the hunger reminds you of why you're doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds you of who you are. And it reminds you what this life is all about.
Right.
You're here because you're supposed to be making a difference. And you're supposed to be positively affecting as many people that you encounter as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just make sure that you're educating yourself. There's no reason in this world, no reason that you can't connect with someone or find the information that you need to pursue whatever dream that you're trying to go for. From basket weaving to flipping houses to gardening, the internet is filled with all kind of subject matter experts.
Right.
Now, it's up to you to distinguish whose advice you're going to end up following, but it's out there and you'll learn a lot. And, if you don't have a computer, you have the public library. It's free. You can go to your sister's, your cousin's, your brother's house. You have your smartphone. I mean, you absolutely have no excuse.
Right. And then when you talked about something I want to touch on real quick is about subject matter experts. Not only using technology to tap into those subject matter experts, but I think also there are actually coaches out there and consultants. And I'll use, for example, one coach who I've been following for a while. Her name is Beverly Wathow, and she's out of Atlanta, Georgia. And just, I've always been kind of skeptical about when folks talk about coaches and consultants, but actually sitting down and listening to her free trainings and then tapping into some of her paid services, it's important for that accountability because as you are hungry for that success, you also have to educate yourself along the journey because nobody knows everything. And just having that accountability and that advanced knowledge, I think is helpful. So I think that's a really good one when you talked about educating yourself, but also tapping into those other resources that'll help you along that entrepreneurial journey as well.
Right. So, one of the other things that I think is a very important and very imperative is you have to change your mindset. In order for you to be prosperous in anything that you do, you have to understand as you're working towards success, you will have setbacks.
Yes.
You got to learn the lessons from your mistakes and apply those lessons that you learn towards your success. Because you can talk to anybody who has achieved any level of success, and they're going to tell you they've encountered some failures along the way.
Right.
You got to remember to be flexible because everything is not going to go according to your plan. As they say, you make a plan and see how God's going to laugh at your plan. And you in that situation where it's stressful, you have to make sure that you maintain a level head because that is vital. Because it can get you off track and you'll lose sight of that particular goal that you're going towards as an entrepreneur. You're not going to always achieve all of your goals all the time, but you got to understand that that's okay. It's this thing that we're in called life.
Right.
You got to make adjustments and roll with the punches and adjust as they come up. And just make sure that, lastly, you always need to engage in positive self-talk. You got to talk to yourself. We are the hardest people when it comes to judging ourselves. And we can be our own worst enemies. So it's important that you make sure that you talk positivity into your life, that you get those positive affirmations, that you encourage yourself, because there's no guarantee that the person that's to the left or the right of you is going to be that encouraging factor in your life.
Right.
So if you don't have that, just make sure that you're encouraging and uplifting yourself, because that is very important to always stay positive, especially going on this journey where it's always a roller coaster and you're going up and down and you never know your left from your right sometimes. So those are my nuggets of advice.
Right. And I think just to add on to that real quick, when you talked about that positive self-talk, you always have to remember that what we speak out of our mouths, sometimes, on the flip side of that, when you say the opposite of the positive, you make that come to fruition. So think about that, and think about some of your life's experiences. And when you've spoken against, or said something negative versus when you should have been talking positive. Okay. Because I'm a firm believer in, and life has taught me well about when if you say negative things, you speak negative, that's what you invite in. Right. But when you shift that and you speak positive and you surround yourself with positive, then I am a true testimony to the fact that it will change your life in so many ways. And especially as being, we're talking about entrepreneurship, you just keep speaking those things. Write those affirmations down and stuff, because I have some note cards, and I'll share that I have certain affirmations written on there. And I will take those affirmations. I look at them in the morning. I read them. I have affirmations and quotes on my vision board. I look at those. And as you let all that feed into your mind and in your spirit, it is truly a positive transformation for you with that mindset. So I'm sorry to go off on a tangent, but that, I wanted to share that because, I want our audience to realize that what we're sharing with them, these are things that we do, that we practice. We're not just on here talking just because we just want to, just to talk to have people listen. We want you to actually,
understand that we put these principles into practice.
Correct. So, the last thing I think I want to share with everybody, because I love quotes just as I love stats. So this quote by Tony Gaskins is one that I do have on my vision board, and it simply says, if you don't build your dream, someone will hire you to build theirs. Again, if you don't build your dream, someone will hire you to build theirs. So keep that close and keep that in mind as we talk about entrepreneurship, as we talk about mindset, as we talk about
the hunger,
yes,
to get where it is that you want to go and what steps you need to take to get you there.
So we just want to encourage you to just stay hungry. Be that beast. Keep your end goal in mind and keep pressing.
So everyone, we've reached the end of another episode of the Hiram Connection. We'd love it if you subscribe, rate, and give us some feedback on Podbean. Don't forget to join us next week, and we thank you for listening.
And as we always say, real sisters,
real talk.
Bye. The Hiram Connection is all over social media. We are currently on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We would like to thank those who are already following us and encourage those who are getting to know us through this podcast to connect with us, because we are very interactive on social media.